So the next thing I saw is just shocked me. It said, dirty water kills more than all three of those combined together. Yet it receives less than 20% of the funding in the research, while those other three receive over 80%. I just remember staring at that and thinking, that's just not right. And I think that was the very first night that, I always had this voice in my head, I felt like that just said, you're nobody. You're not good enough. Who do you think you are? I think you can do something about this. I think it was the first time I just decided I'm gonna shut that voice off, and I'm gonna try. And I looked at the resources I had as a bartender, and I thought, I've got plenty of access to booze, which is really important if you're gonna have a successful event. So I can get booze, and I got live music from yours truly right here, so I got some entertainment. I can get a free place from, a local club owner. Within about a month and a half time, this was February 2004, I had put on the very first Wine to Water event. And by the end of the night, over 300 people had showed up. We raised about $5,000 or $6,000, and I remember counting that money. I'd never seen that much money in one place at one time. And it was the very first time I felt like, it worked. 6 months after my very first event, I'm on a plane to this place that you see behind me here. This has been about August of 2004, and the place changed my life. I learned more lessons in the year that I spent in the desert there in Darfur than I've learned in the previous, 24, 25 years of my life before that. One of the first ones was here in this camp. It's called Marla Camp. 10,000 people living in this refugee camp here. And I had my little point and shoot camera with me, and I snapped this shot. This was the beginning of their 4 to 5 hour walk every day outside of their camp to find water. Mostly women and children, and when these women and children would walk back and bring that water, it actually would make the youngest kids quite sick because the water they found was filthy. I remember staring at that and saying, I've got to do something about this. And so we set up, it took us a while, we set up a water point right in the middle of their camp. Clean water, not looking like, chocolate milk like the other water that they were drinking. Clean water that was not making them sick, and it was only 3 or 4 minutes for them to get that bucket, not 4 or 5 hours. And on top of that, the whole reason why they were living in camps is in that genocide, it was pretty insecure. So the whole concept of safety in numbers, and they had a local rebel group I'll talk about in just a minute that was keeping them safe. But when they walked out of that camp, that's when bad things happen to women and children in a war setting. So you should see the change that day, that very first day that they walked to that tank and they filled up their jugs with clean water, and it took them 4 or 5 minutes instead of hours. All these kids, thousands of them, they surrounded me and my men, and they all just started cheering and chanting, Moya, Moya, which is the local word there for water. And then next thing you know, they all broke off and just started playing and going crazy. And I realized that this is probably the first time since this war started that these kids actually got to be children. It was a huge day for me and made me realize this water crisis, it does so much more than steal their physical lives. But kids all around the world are walking hours upon hours every day. It steals their childhood.